As I always say on this channel, follow the money because I like to talk about this money stuff with you guys. And I think it's important, be it the economy, be it inflation, how our businesses handling the crazy Trump tariffs, how are consumers reacting, uh, how is our overall state, right? And to understand all of this and the markets, unfortunately, you've got to talk about this crazy Trumpy stuff every single day because it has a direct impact on our lives, which is as crazy as it sounds. Many times I'm just like, how did we get on this timeline? Are we in a permanently South Park episode, right? That's literally what it feels like. But this is where we're at. So Trump has been attacking the Fed, as I'm sure you guys know, constantly attacking Federal Chair Jerome Powell. That didn't work out so well for Trump. So now he's set his sights on someone else at the Fed. And we're going to be claiming, this is Trump going to be claiming mortgage fraud. So what is mortgage fraud rich coming from Trump? So what is Captain Caplocks up to today, right? Donald Trump. Well, this is what he's tweeting out. He says, Cook must resign now! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. And when I saw this, I'm just like, I don't even know what we're talking about because it's not something that we talk about very often, meaning that this is Lisa Cook over at the Fed, and her name doesn't come up that often at all, actually. Usually we just talk about the Fed chair and these kind of things. But if you understand what Trump is up to these days, he's basically ordered his people, hey, go find some political dirt on my opponents and people who don't have policy that I want. So faced with these allegation charges, this is how Fed Cook, this is her response. She says, I have no intention of being bullied to step down from my position because of some questions raised in a tweet. I do intend to take any questions about my financial history seriously as a member of the Federal Reserve, and so I am gathering the accurate information to answer any legitimate questions and provide the facts. So that's her response. Trump is claiming mortgage fraud on someone at the Fed, and she's like, okay, I'll take this stuff seriously. I'll present you the facts. And unfortunately, like someone at the Fed has to state publicly that they have no intention of being bullied. Just let that sink in. That means that the president of the United States is just out to bully people. I mean, obviously you guys know this. He's the bully in chief. He does this stuff all the time. But the seriousness stuff is insane that we have to talk about on a daily basis. And honestly, guys, it gets very tiring to talk about it, to be honest. But I do want to address this stuff seriously. So, okay, Trump puts out these allegations on Twitter, and Trump has one of his, underlings, I think his name is Pulte, put out this stuff as well. And you're probably wondering, okay, so, what are the charges? What did you dig up? Okay, so they're saying mortgage fraud, and it has to do with when you apply for a mortgage. And I think it was in June 2021, Lisa Cook bought a house in Michigan. And then on the application, you're writing that it's your primary residence, okay? And then they're saying a couple weeks later, I think she bought a condo in Atlanta and was then indicating an application that was her primary residence. But then later, I think that's the same place in Atlanta was also then put up as a rental listing or something. So that's essentially what they're trying to claim is that she applied for a couple different mortgages and putting primary residence at different spots on each application, right? So there's a discrepancy there. And I'm telling you the allegations because I want to be fair and honest about this stuff because these are serious allegations. And I know on some channels they'll just say whatever Trump says is it's a lies and it's completely wrong, etc. Right? And that's an easy stance to take. And the other people who are on the pro-Trump side will say, oh well, of course all Democrats are bad, etc. And some people are going to bring up that she's black and she's a woman, right? Which she is, and they'll say, oh, Trump likes to attack those kind of people. And I'm just telling you the full story is best of my ability. The problem is like everything gets so tainted by Trump's politics because he targets his political opponents, be it Adam Schiff or Letitia James for, real estate kind of stuff. He's been doing this. And so this kind of one, that's why I read her response first, where she's like, hey, I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not stepping down. I'll just present the facts, which I think is the best way to respond to the stuff. I don't know, what the facts are in this case. I just told you what's being alleged, et cetera. And I think that's fair. And my, point of view on this stuff is if we are at least, going to enforce the law, we should do it fairly and equally for everyone. And I think that is a fair stance to take. But you have to, again, put all this stuff in the context where Trump has a history of attacking his political opponents in this way. And, basically it looks like it's targeting a certain person. So there's that. So you gotta bring that up. And you also have to understand too that basically we're also in a time when they're trying to pick a new Fed chair, and basically Trump can't fire Jerome Powell, right? I mean, could he do it illegally? Sure, he could totally call it. I mean, I'm saying illegally, Trump could totally call in his goons and say, "Oh, get that Powell guy out of here," and then you got this constitutional crisis, that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of things that Trump, are doing. So that's why, like, I tell you what the allegations are. They do sound, serious. And I'll let the courts and the stuff like that decide, like, the serious and the veracity. Like, is this stuff truthful or not? But it's hard. It's so hard these days to talk about this stuff because I want to tell you the truth about it and also put a larger context of it. So because I understand, and I hope you understand also too, the larger ramifications of this stuff. If Trump and his people with the DOJ can just go after whoever they want to get, whatever thing, or sort of blow things out of proportion, whatever they want, and then put in policies in place that effectively affect not just everyday Americans, affect everyone's lives, and it will have severe consequences. I mean, that's sort of what we're talking about here, because Trump's whole game plan is to basically seize as much power as he possibly can. That's what it is, right? He's got that Supreme Court behind him saying, if it's official presidential duty, do whatever you want, right? Immunity. And it's not a good thing to take. Like you want a system in place where you have independent, bodies doing their job. So like you want a DOJ that's just like, hey, I'm just looking for crime and enforcement and do wherever, regardless, right? Of who does said things. I don't want to just necessarily be targeting in this way. So on top of that, the Fed recently released their minutes, and basically people at the Fed are just like, yo, we're worried about inflation. Let's not raise rates. Okay. And if Trump can get his own people in, he's trying to basically turn the vote into where then the Fed would, act on behalf of Trump and change policies to whatever Trump wants. So if Trump wants to cut rates, then the Fed will cut rates if he get all of his own people in there. And I'm certainly hope you guys understand the problem of this. And if you don't understand, the basic gist of it is we want the Fed to be independent and to set economic policy, right? Whatever rates are going to be based on the numbers and what makes sense for the big picture, not just for the short term. If you want to look at something like situation in Turkey, which is basically when they were replacing people, you had inflation, like I think it went up to like 85%, which is like ludicrous. And if the Trump gets his way and it just has like just crazy policy nonstop, I mean, people will completely lose trust in the U.S. markets, lose trust in the dollar, right? You may see some collapse in that. Does Trump want to collapse the dollar? I mean, you can ask him. Him and his family are out pumping crypto all the time, so maybe that's their goal. You'll have inflation, right? Could be completely unhinged because then the Fed's no longer operating in reality and setting, policy in ways that make sense, right? It's just horrible for everything. And so this is sort of why, like this particular attack, why I'm just telling you these are what the allegations are. This is her response. Just to take this stuff seriously, but also put it in the context of if Trump's going to start just targeting everyone, and then any number of things to where getting all his people in, and he, being Trump, has a history of picking like the most unqualified people that he can possibly find in all of efforts to, pump out Trump's TV show. Because guys, if you know this, Trump essentially wants to be the star of his own reality TV show nonstop. And so that's what's going on. And I'll try to keep you guys updated on this particular one. Again, I'd actually rather just talk about inflation, the economy, and the trade war and stuff like that. But you do have to take these allegations seriously, because I want to see where this stuff leads. Also, regarding who's going to be chair of the Fed, there's a list they've been putting out there for a while now. It's got 11 people. I think a couple are already in the Fed at the moment, but and there's 9 that aren't. And you know, it's probably going to be a Trump sycophant. That's their goal, and then they're going to try to stack the Fed the same way that Trump will figure out ways to stack courts or whatever. It is a scary situation. As I hope you guys understand the seriousness of it, and so there's that. So I do appreciate your time, everyone. I would like to hear your thoughts, and I'll catch you all in the next video.